Hey everyone! So I've been playing as the Koreans quite a bit recently, and I've been trying to figure out what makes the War Wagon such a useful unit for that civilization. I have thought about this some, and I have reached some conclusions, and I hope that these conclusions will be useful for other Korean players. Let's check it out. So, the Koreans are known as one of the most powerful late-game civilizations in Age of Empires 2. However, it seems to me that many players, including myself, view the Seige Onager and not the War Wagon as the core component to the Korean army. However, I think that the War Wagon is a very strong unit after I've looked in depth into it and seen what it really is good for. So let's look at the War Wagon's stats and look at the War Wagon's counters and all that stuff to see how good the elite War Wagon really is. So the War Wagon is classified as a Cavalry archer unit. However, there are several fundamental differences between these two units. The first one is that the War Wagon costs 70 more wood, but 10 less gold. Unless you're playing in the expansions, of course, when the War Wagon costs the same amount of gold. Also, the Elite War Wagon has 140 more HP, a little bit more attack, and a little bit more range. Oh, and did I mention it has 4 more pierce armor than the Heavy Cavalry Archer. This means that in just about every situation, the Elite War Wagon is going to be the better choice. So, now that that's out of the way, let's look at what actually counters the War Wagon. The reason I'm going to cover this first is because once you see what the counters are to the War Wagon, then you'll know how to effectively use it. So, unsurprisingly, units that have bonuses against cavalry or archers, such as camels or halberdiers, will be cost-effective against War Wagons. Also, brute force units, such as paladins or elephants, will also be cost-effective as well. Now, when my opponent uses these normal counters against my War Wagons when I'm playing as the Koreans, I think to myself, oh, how adorable! He's using the normal counters. Fortunately, I'm the Koreans, and I have this awesome Deathball. What about high pierce armor units or special unique units? They fall prey to the same fate. What about using siege units against the War Wagons? Well, the Korean Hussars and the bombard cannons will either outproduce or outrange those units very easily. And lastly, if I don't have a nearby Deathball, I'll just run away to find a further away one. Now, this should raise 2 questions. The first one is, how do you even counter the Koreans at all? I'm going to try to answer this in a separate video. But briefly, a mix of bombard cannons and other heavy siege will be somewhat effective. But the second question is, why should you even waste resources on a War Wagon? After all, in these clips, it's the halberdiers and the Onagers doing all the work. The answer is twofold. First, the War Wagon is such a tanky unit that even though it might not be the backbone of your army, it can still deal a lot of damage, and a lot more damage than some halberdiers. Second, War Wagons have a high population efficiency. The reason for this is because the War Wagon has better health and better attack than some other units, which will result in the War Wagon not having to be used with as high numbers or have to be recreated as often. And these 2 points, above all, are really what makes the War Wagon such a useful unit for the Koreans. Still, it will be interesting to know how to use this unit when you don't have other Korean units to back it up. So basically, the way I see it is that the War Wagon's high attack and high health make it a good counter against infantry, and the War Wagon's high health, high attack, and high pierce armor make it an excellent counter against archers. So, for the most part, if you're an archer or infantry civilization, don't try to defeat a mono unit army full of War Wagons with just those units. It's not going to work. Also, the War Wagon's high tankiness and its attack make it a really good unit at raiding. And this is kind of surprising because it's kind of a slow unit, but it's going to last a lot longer than other heavy cavalry archer units or something like that. So, those are my thoughts about the War Wagon unit.